Welcome, ADK and Financial Planning World Communities. Dan Davis, President and Co-founder. Today it's my honor to chat with you a little bit about something different than what we normally do. Really talking in terms of what I think is the most profound macro trend that we're experiencing. So I'm going to kind of go backwards historically and talk about inventions, innovations, kind of look at where we're at now and talk about the future. And so if you kind of think about history, and I want you to think about inventions that happened, but not just all by themselves, but sort of in sequence. So this list isn't all inclusive, it's just some that I think are pretty significant. So you take a look at like railroads and steam engines. The railroad by itself was big, but at the beginning, they were in essence laying track and then having horses pull this thing along. Now imagine how slow that would be. Fast forward just a little bit of time, you have a combustion engine. Now you've got a whole train being pulled by itself with no horses. The implications of that to society at that time of moving food around, moving people around, really pretty huge. You have also things like electricity, and electricity just flowed through to everything. I mean, it's hard for me to imagine walking around with a torch or using candles in the house, and just thinking about the effects of productivity from electricity and light bulbs, and electricity and everything, refrigerators. You kind of take a look at cars, automation, mass production. At the time, we were really getting around with horses, buggies, walking, and then you have cars and mass production, and it really just blows everything up from a standpoint of how you move around. Computers, internet, cell phones. I mean, that happened in my lifetime, so I think about, like just something as simple as when I got out of college, computers were around, but they really were only used at like big computing centers, and just a little bit of time in the workforce, and then I was forced to use a laptop because I was the young person in the office. And then, you kind of go from early 1990s to internet. Wow, that's just mind-boggling. And then what you can do on your cell phone now. Ask yourself, what invention in your lifetime has had the biggest impact on your life? I'll take, for me, it's something as simple as Google Maps. When I would travel to go see you in your city, I remember when I went to Houston the first time. This is a city that's got outer roads on outer roads. And I got so lost that I was late to every meeting. So then in the future meetings, when I would go out to see people, I'd have to add an hour onto every transition so that I wouldn't be late. Terribly unproductive. But now Google Maps, you can kind of know when you're going to be there and add waves, and all of a sudden you even know where the accidents and the police are. Implications to our lives and society are huge. You take a look at moving from an agrarian society to an industrial society. Not all for the better, but the implications are astronomical. From industrial to service and information, again, astronomical. And what's next? And that's really some of the stuff we're talking about today. In order to answer what's next, we kind of have to look at current reality. You hear a lot of terms like AI, AR, VR. What's all that mean? So artificial intelligence, cloud computing, quantum computing, computer learning, you put those together, and it's actually mind-boggling to think that a machine can easily beat humans in games like chess and Go. If you take a look at, I was just at a conference at the University of Chicago, and in one of our breakout sessions, they were talking about how with big data, computers are able to teach themselves and continue to, in quantum leaps, improve their ability to outperform humans in a lot of tasks. Again, I don't know that many people exactly know where that's going, just like they didn't know where the internet was going to bring us, but the effects of it are astronomical. Another thing about that is there's not a lot of players, companies if you will, that have big data, much less cloud computing. You have to end up buying that cloud computing from a very few group of vendors. Virtual reality. I remember seeing a movie with my son Blake and my brother Tom, and the whole movie was basically this guy coming in and out of virtual reality. And when he was in virtual reality, there was literally this war going on, and it was fascinating. But as I think about reality and augmented reality, virtual reality, where things can go is pretty crazy. I was thinking this Christmas, my wife bought these Oculus glasses, and to watch my daughters and their boyfriends and husbands literally for hours playing this game. And I remember sitting on the chair and I was like, wow, it's hard to imagine that something like this would captivate them this much. And then all of a sudden had this flash of my brother, my dad, and I playing Pong. You know, you can't get a simpler computer game than Pong. And we were captivated by something that simple back in the mid-'70s, where hours upon hours we would compete, play, have fun, you know. Just where will virtual reality go? Again, people really don't know. But what we do know is that it has radical change baked into it. Augmented reality, simply put, is taking kind of current and then augmenting it. So a few years ago, at the most basic level, my daughters had these little phone apps where they'd take a picture of you, and then they'd get a kick out of making dad bald and putting monkey ears on me, and then maybe doing like these big handlebar mustaches, and you just hear them laughing and giggling, and then they'd show it to me. And it was amusing to me. I've never used that app. But again, that's a very basic tool. Think about the railroad when the horse was pulling it. Where does it go when you actually have the combustion engine to it? And that's what's happening with computer learning, cloud computing. It's that combustion engine to a lot of other things that are happening. In the current sphere that we're in, there's an enormous amount of experiments going on, from glasses to goggles. And some people that are very prominent think that the glasses and the goggles are just too wonky for people to use compared to like a phone that fits in your pocket. And so they think they end up being immaterial and kind of an ancillary benefit, just like an eye watch, if you will. I'm not in that camp. I don't necessarily know how it's going to play out. I know the wonkiness will hurt it, but I think about the ability to have something where, if you think about Star Trek, where you're actually reaching out, touching, just like you can do with a menu in a computer, but you can do it with your hand from some kind of a device that's on you. It's going there. How the medium of that's going to happen, I don't know, but when it gets there, it's pretty profound. We think about automobiles and we think about the autonomous driving, but it's also the stuff happening inside of the car. Think about how much easier it is to parallel park and back up with the cameras that we have in the cars. Now think about the front of the car with Apple CarPlay. My daughter Mia's out in LA. When she's driving around, she's got her phone up here. As she turns, it's moving around. Terribly dangerous, especially when you take a look at the traffic of LA. Now, Apple CarPlay, all of a sudden now it's on your monitor. It's not moving around. You don't have to look down. You're just kind of glancing back and forth. Improvement, huge. All the things that are happening within cars, I don't even think we can comprehend it. But things like semiconductors, the amount of semiconducting that goes on in these cars is astronomical. Now, future possibilities. Think about where we're at now and just go back to like 1999. No one in my client base could have really anticipated 1999 to where we're at. Now think about the next, say, 20 plus years. It's that difficult as well. Huge competition that's happening. It's my belief that technology is going to supercharge sophisticated users. It's not going to replace us, at least not in that sphere of time, but it's going to supercharge us. From doctors, when I had my cancer surgery, I remember I'm laying on the table and I had this vision of this doctor coming over me when I'm out and he's operating on me. Well, I look over at him and I said to the doctor, I said, you got a lot of people praying for you. We're praying that you have your A game. And he's moving joysticks around. And basically, he never left that spot. He operated on me with a machine. Pretty cool. Now, fast forward time, and the doctor's able to do that. He's not even in your city. The implications of that are astronomical. Imagine a construction manager. So we live in Nashville now. Hotels are popping up everywhere. And the quality of the hotels pretty poor. Mary Kay works in a hotel and a spa, and the number of problems that they have due to construction of the water flow and everything into the spa, the amount of leaks, the amount of malfunctions, off the charts. Now imagine where each floor has a set of goggles that you can go over and put on, and you can kind of see, how is this thing actually blueprinted? How's it supposed to work? Because at a certain point, they want stuff done, and they want it done today, and they want it done tomorrow, not next week. And then all of a sudden, you just got this big flurry to get it done versus get it done right. So the quality of construction goes up a lot when you've got these goggles. You take a look at soldiers. Imagine a soldier that has like a Captain America suit, not necessarily is able to fly, but that he's got tank type of capacity with missiles, with high-powered weapons, the ability to maneuver without just the human capacity, because carrying all that stuff around is pretty difficult. But if you're in a robotic suit, all of a sudden you're supercharged. I hate to go into the soldier stuff, but the reality of it is we're in a war setting, so you start to think about some of that stuff a little more. The implications to consumers are huge. I was hearing this guy talk about how with refrigerators of the future, you'll have organization because you set your stuff in certain areas. And let's just do the milk, for example. The artificial intelligence knows what kind of milk you drink because of your ordering pattern. And when you set it on the container, it can tell how much time you have left on it. So then it orders it automatically for you when it's time. Think about your cupboards and all that kind of stuff being able to do the same thing. Again, I don't see in this next wave that humans are being replaced. I think the sophisticated user is being elevated and becoming much more productive. There's this component of the Star Trek Captain Kirk being able to do things with computers that is right around the corner. Think of some movies that you've seen where they're using sci-fi in some way. A lot of that is going to be current reality over the next 20 years. Some problems for that, though, is that if you take a look currently, we have a huge divide between the have and the have-nots. When I stay in St. Louis, I stay in the home I grew up in very blue-collar, middle-class area. When I drive around that area right now, you've heard me talk about how I can just see a stark difference between that, what it was, compared to the rest of the St. Louis area and what it is now. The divide's huge. It's going to make the divide even larger because the less sophisticated workers get displaced. The more sophisticated workers make more money, and you need fewer of them. At the beginning, we talked about agrarian to industrial to information service. What's next? What's next is what I call, from having read about it, is the experience economy. The experience economy is why we sent you a recent survey, because what we wanted to understand is how do you currently use technology? How might we use technology in the future to better serve you? Again, it's not to replace us. It's to complement us, to be that super financial advisor to serve you even better than what we can do right now. We're going to be having some of you join us to have conversations that the implications of that will be how we're using technology going forward. Lastly is really about investing and what that means to you. Because of the way compliance works, I can't really go into a lot of that over a video like this. So in our next time we talk, whether it's a phone call or a meeting, let's discuss that further, because I do think that there's pretty big implications about that. In trying times like this, I know when you look at your statements, when you see what's happening with the Dow, the S&P, it's really, I don't know how I'd phrase it, but unsettling. Know that we've factored this kind of volatility into the rate of return that we've used in your financial planning. It is unsettling. You're doing a great job staying the course. I thank you for your trust. I thank you for your business, and we're here to help you now and into the future. signing off from St. Louis. Thank you.